You can't come here and talk to us like that. Mike's voice cut through the wedding reception like a blade. His face was crimson, veins pulsing at his temples. The entire room had fallen silent, crystal glasses suspended midair, conversations frozen. I stood there in my simple black dress, hands trembling slightly, staring at my brother who looked like he wanted to crawl under the white tablecloth. His new bride's mouth hung open, her carefully applied lipstick suddenly looking garish under the harsh restaurant lighting. Mom's fingers gripped her champagne flute so tightly I thought it might shatter. Maybe it's time you all listened, I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake in my chest. How had we gotten here? How had little Jenny, the girl who used to hide behind Grandma Rose's apron, ended up publicly humiliating her own family at her brother's wedding? The answer lay buried in years of being called the gardener, like it was a curse word. Growing up, I always knew I was different from the rest of my family. My name's Jenny, and I come from a long line of restaurant owners. Dad Joe is a big, loud man who runs our family restaurant with an iron fist. His grandfather had started the business with nothing but a dream and a borrowed pot, working 18-hour days until his hands cracked like old leather. That legacy weighed on Dad's shoulders like a millstone, driving him to push everyone around him toward the same single-minded devotion to the business. Mom Linda is his perfect partner, always busy managing the staff. She grew up in a household where women were expected to be silent supporters, where dreams were luxuries they couldn't afford. Her own mother had sacrificed everything for her family's survival, and Linda carried that same martyrdom like a badge of honor. Then there's my older brother Mike, the golden boy, groomed to take over the business. From the moment he could walk, Dad had him by his side, teaching him that success meant dominance, that kindness was weakness. Mike learned to measure his worth by how well he could command a room, how loudly he could laugh at others' expense. I remember sitting at the dinner table one night, the air thick with the aroma of Dad's famous roast. The same roast that had been served to 3 generations of customers, the recipe guarded like a state secret. Mom was going on about some new dish they were trying out. Jenny, you'll love this one. It's got that fancy herb you like, what's it called again? Mom asked, her eyes sparkling with the kind of enthusiasm she reserved for anything restaurant-related. Thyme, I mumbled, picking at my food. Even then, I found more comfort in the names of plants than in the endless business talk that dominated our dinner conversations. Mike laughed from across the table, his mouth full. Who cares about some dumb herb? Wait till you see the new grill Dad's getting for the restaurant. That's the real deal. Dad nodded, his eyes boring into me with the intensity of a drill sergeant. Speaking of the restaurant, Jenny, when are you going to start taking an interest? You're not getting any younger, you know. I tried to make myself small in my chair, wishing I could disappear into the worn fabric. I don't know, Dad. I like being outside with the plants and stuff. The silence that followed was deafening. Mom's side glanced at Dad, that familiar look of concern mixed with disappointment. Plants? What are you going to do with plants? You need a real job, Jenny. Something to fall back on. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach, the one that appeared every time they looked at me like I was broken. It was the same conversation every time, like a record stuck on repeat. No one in my family understood. No one except Grandma Rose. Grandma Rose lived in a small house on the outskirts of town, surrounded by the most beautiful garden I'd ever seen. She was different from my parents, gentle, patient, and she understood me in a way no one else did. Where my parents saw chaos in nature, she saw poetry. Where they saw waste of time, she saw magic. I would often escape to her house, away from the endless talk of profit margins and customer complaints. One day I found her in the garden, her hands deep in the soil, her face serene in a way that made me think of the Madonna paintings in church. Jenny, dear, come help me plant these tulips, she said, her face bright with a smile that reached her eyes. I sat down beside her, feeling the cool dirt on my hands like a blessing. Grandma, why don't Mom and Dad understand? I love this. I love being here with the plants. Grandma Rose wiped her brow with the back of her hand, leaving a small streak of earth on her forehead. She looked at me with those wise old eyes that had seen the Depression, 2 wars, and countless seasons of growth and loss. Your parents just want what's best for you, Jenny. But they don't see the world the same way we do. There's magic in these plants, in the earth. It's okay to be different. Her words became my anchor in the storm of my family's expectations. But even Grandma's wisdom couldn't shield me from Mike's constant taunts. Hey, gardener, he'd call out whenever his friends were around, his voice dripping with mockery. You going to plant some lettuce for tonight's salad? His friends would laugh, their teenage cruelty sharp as thorns. I'd just roll my eyes and walk away, but inside, each word carved a little deeper. They didn't see the beauty in a single leaf unfurling, the miracle of morning dew catching sunlight like scattered diamonds. But I did. And in those moments, with my hands in the soil, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. High school graduation felt like standing at a crossroads, and I was about to take the road less traveled by my family. The house was buzzing with excitement over Mike's plans to join Dad at the restaurant. In their world, this was the natural order, sons following fathers, traditions preserved, family legacy secured. Amidst it all, I felt like a spectator in my own life, watching a play where I'd been given the wrong script. One evening we were all gathered in the living room, the same room where I'd spent countless hours doing homework while they discussed inventory and staff schedules. Dad was going on about expanding the restaurant, his eyes gleaming with the kind of ambition that had driven his father and grandfather before him. Mike, you're going to be right at the heart of this, he said, clapping my brother on the back with the pride of a man seeing his legacy secured. Mike puffed up like a proud rooster, his chest swelling with inherited importance. Yeah, I've got some ideas already, Dad. We're going to make this place huge. I sat there fiddling with a loose thread on the couch, feeling invisible. The weight of their expectations pressed down on me like a physical force. I thought about Grandma Rose's garden, about the way my heart raced when I saw a perfect bloom, about the peace I felt when my hands were in the earth. Mom turned to me, her voice sharp like she was waking me from a daydream. And what about you, Jenny? Ready to step up? You can handle the front desk, learn the ropes. I took a deep breath, my heart hammering against my ribs. It was now or never. Actually, I'm not going to work at the restaurant. I'm going to study landscape design. The words hung in the air like a grenade with the pin pulled. The room went silent except for the tick of the old grandfather clock that had witnessed decades of family arguments. Dad's face turned red like a tomato about to burst. Landscape what now? He barked, his voice carrying the fury of 3 generations of restaurant owners. That's no career for you. You're a part of this family, and the restaurant is our legacy. Mike snickered, that familiar sound of superiority. What are you going to do, plant flowers for a living? I felt my cheeks burning, but something inside me had shifted. Maybe it was Grandma Rose's voice echoing in my memory, or maybe it was the sudden realization that I was tired of being small. Yes, actually. That's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm good at it, and I love it. Mom's face was a mix of confusion and worry, like I just announced I was joining the circus. Jenny, be sensible. You can't make a living off playing in the dirt. I stood up, feeling a surge of defiance that surprised even me. It's not just playing in the dirt, Mom. It's creating something beautiful. Something real. I'm not asking for your approval, but I am telling you, this is my decision. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the family photos jump. His voice boomed with the authority of a man who'd never been challenged. If you choose this foolishness, you're on your own. Don't expect any help from us. I felt that familiar knot in my stomach, but my voice was steady. Fine. I'll do it on my own. Grandma Rose, who had been quietly knitting in the corner, finally spoke. Her voice was calm but carried the weight of someone who'd lived through enough family storms to recognize when they were necessary. "Joe, let the girl follow her heart. She's got a gift, and it would be a sin to waste it." Dad let out a frustrated grunt, turning away like a child denied a toy. "Fine. Do what you want. But don't come crying to us when it all falls apart." I turned to leave the room, my heart pounding like a drum. Mike called out after me, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Good luck, gardener. Let's see how far those flowers get you." As I climbed the stairs to my room, I felt like I was shedding an old skin. The girl who'd tried to make herself small was gone. In her place was someone who'd chosen her own path, even if it meant walking it alone. Stepping into college life felt like diving into deep water, thrilling yet daunting. I was far from the familiar paths of my family's expectations, ready to carve my own way in the world of landscape design. The first day of class hit me like a wave of possibility. The room was filled with students who spoke my language, the language of growing things, of design, of beauty that went beyond profit margins. I found a spot in the back, old habits dying hard. That's when Zoe dropped into the seat next to me. She had fire engine red hair and eyes full of the kind of mischief that suggested she'd never met a rule she couldn't bend. "Hey there, newbie. I'm Zoe. First timer in landscape design?" I gave a shy nod, still feeling like an imposter in this world where my dreams were actually valued. "Yeah, I'm Jenny. It's all a bit overwhelming." Zoe's laugh was loud and genuine, the kind that made you want to laugh along even if you didn't know the joke. "You'll fit right in. Wait till you get your hands into the real dirt. It's epic." "What dragged you into this world?" I hesitated, the memory of my family's disapproval still fresh like a wound. "I've always loved plants, the outdoors. It's where I feel right, you know?" Her grin widened. "Perfect place for you then." Classes were a whirlwind of learning and creating. I was absorbing everything like a sponge, the science of soils, the art of design, the poetry of spaces that could make people stop and breathe. For the first time in my life, I was speaking a language I loved, surrounded by people who understood why a single flower placement could make the difference between ordinary and extraordinary. After one particularly intense session, Mr. Davidson called me over. He was a man as tall and sturdy as an oak, with hands that spoke of decades spent shaping landscapes. "Jenny, your designs, there's something special there. You've got a real knack for this." I was stunned, my heart racing with a mixture of pride and disbelief. "Really? Thank you, Mr. Davidson. I'm just trying to do my best." He leaned forward, his eyes piercing. "There's potential in you. Don't let it go to waste. Push harder." His words became my mantra. I started living in the studio, my designs becoming more ambitious, more expressive. It was exhausting but exhilarating, like finally being able to breathe after holding your breath your whole life. But even in those moments of joy, a part of me yearned for my family's approval. The wound of their rejection throbbed like a phantom limb. One quiet evening, I gathered the courage to call home. Each ring felt like a small eternity. Finally, Mom's voice came through, sharp as a knife's edge. "What do you want, Jenny?" Her tone cut deep, but I pushed on. "I just wanted to check in, see how everyone is." She snorted, her voice dripping with scorn. "Oh, now you care? After running off to play in the dirt, abandoning your own family?" I clenched my teeth, fighting to keep my voice steady. "I didn't abandon anyone, Mom. I just chose a different path." Her laugh was bitter, like medicine that had gone bad. "A dead-end path, you mean? Don't expect us to be here waiting when it all crumbles around you." The call ended soon after, leaving a sour taste in my mouth. But it also fueled a fire in me. I dove back into my work with new intensity, determined to prove, not just to my family, but to myself, that I was on the right path. Life has a way of throwing curveballs when you least expect them. Mine came in the form of a phone call during my final year of college. It was Aunt Clara, my mom's sister, her voice shaky and strained. "Jenny, it's about your Grandma Rose. She passed away last night." The words hit me like a physical blow. I felt the ground slip away beneath me. Grandma Rose had been my rock, the one person who believed in my dreams without condition. Losing her felt like losing a part of myself, like someone had torn out pages from the book of my life. The funeral was a somber affair. My family was there, all stiff and formal, looking like strangers in their black clothes. They moved through the motions of grief, but I could see the calculations behind their eyes: the house, the property, the money. After the service, I overheard Mom talking to Aunt Clara. "I still can't believe she left that house to Jenny. What's she going to do with it? She can barely take care of herself." I felt a surge of anger that nearly knocked me over. Even in death, Grandma Rose couldn't escape their judgment. But I bit my tongue. Not here, not now. The will reading was a few days later. Grandma Rose had left me her house, the beautiful garden haven where I had spent countless hours learning to see the world through her eyes. My family's shock was palpable, their whispers sharp as thorns. "Why would she leave it to Jenny? She's never around anyway," Mike muttered under his breath. Dad's face was like thunder. "This is ridiculous. That house could have been sold, put money into the restaurant." I stood up, my voice steady but firm. "Grandma knew I loved that house, that garden. It was where we spent so much time together. I'm going to keep it, just as she wanted." Mom's response was cold and harsh. "So you're just going to live there alone, playing in the dirt? What a waste." Their words stung, but I had made up my mind. I moved into Grandma's house, immersing myself in the garden she had loved so dearly. Every plant, every carefully tended bed held a memory. I could almost hear her voice guiding my hands as I worked. I started renovating the place, pouring my heart into every flower bed, every stone pathway. As the months passed, I transformed Grandma's garden into something truly spectacular. It became my sanctuary, a place where I could be myself away from the judgment and expectations of my family. But the peace couldn't last forever. The day the invitation to Mike's wedding arrived felt like a door opening to a past I'd tried to close. It was a fancy piece of paper, golden letters against white background, representing a part of my life I had left behind. Staring at it, I felt a storm of emotions churn inside me. I decided to go, but on my terms. I dressed in a way that felt true to me, elegant but simple, a far cry from the dirt-stained clothes they remembered. As I entered the restaurant, the sights and sounds of my past life engulfed me like a tide. I spotted my family across the room: Mom, Dad, and Mike, all decked out, looking like a picture-perfect family. They were laughing at something, their faces bright with the kind of joy that had never included me. I braced myself and walked over. "Jenny, I didn't think you'd accept the invitation," Mom said, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "I came to see Mike get married. It's a family event, isn't it?" I replied, trying to keep my voice level. Mike glanced at me, his smirk familiar and unwelcome. "What's the matter? Ran out of bushes to trim? Decided to play dress-up for a change?" I felt that familiar sting, but I brushed it off. "I'm just here to wish you well, Mike." It was then that his bride chimed in, a tall woman with a haughty look that suggested she'd never met a mirror she didn't like. "Oh, this is the infamous gardener's sister. Did you manage to scrub the dirt from under your nails, dear, or is that your natural look?" Her words hung in the air like poison. I clenched my jaw, refusing to let her see how deep they cut. "I clean up just fine, thanks for asking. Congratulations to you both." Dad's eyes were cold, his voice colder. "Your being here doesn't erase the past, Jenny. You chose your path. I was quickly ushered to a small table in the corner, away from the family. The symbolism wasn't lost on me. Even at his own wedding, Mike couldn't bear to have his dirt-digging sister contaminate his perfect image. Sitting there, I could feel the curious stares and hushed whispers. That's the gardener, they whispered. The black sheep of the family. But as I sat there, something unexpected happened. A sense of pride welled up in me. Yes, I was the gardener. The one who had dared to follow her own path. I was no longer the shy, unsure girl they remembered, but a woman who had found her strength, who had bloomed in spite of them. My discomfort only grew as the evening stretched on. I tried to make myself invisible, but that plan fell apart when I caught the eye of some guys I knew from childhood, Mike's friends, the same ones who used to join him in mocking me. Look who's here, the family's little dirt digger, one of them, Jake, jeered as they approached. I took a deep breath, steeling myself. Actually, it's landscape designer. But I wouldn't expect you to understand the difference. Their laughter was harsh and grating. Oh, listen to her. Thinks she's all high and mighty now, Chris added with a scoff. I bit back a sharp retort, my hands clenching under the table. I've worked hard for my success. My job is more than just playing in the dirt. Their amusement was cut short when an elderly man at the next table interjected. He'd been listening, his expression growing increasingly disapproving. I've seen this young lady's work. The new park downtown? That's hers. It's outstanding. Shows what you know. The group was visibly taken aback, their smugness faltering. Muttering under their breath, they slunk away, their egos bruised. Emboldened, I decided to venture out from my safe corner. That's when I overheard Mike speaking to a group of his friends. She's always been the odd one, more into her plants than real work, he said, his voice laced with amusement and disdain. His friend laughed loudly. Every family's got its black sheep, huh? Their words were like a slap, raw and stinging. I walked away, my heart pounding, reminding myself that their opinions didn't define me. But then came the moment that changed everything. The wedding night was winding down when the mayor, a distant relative of Mike's bride, took the stage for his speech. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a delight to be here, he began, his voice booming across the room. But tonight I want to highlight a special guest among us. A true star in the world of landscape design. Hearing my name, I almost choked on my drink. I stood up hesitantly, feeling like a deer caught in headlights. The mayor beamed at me. Jenny here is the brilliant mind behind the transformation of our city park. She's a celebrated landscape designer who's won multiple awards for her incredible work. Let's give her the recognition she deserves. The room erupted into applause, a sound that felt foreign to my ears. I glanced at my family's table and saw them frozen, their faces a mixture of shock and embarrassment. Mike's bride leaned toward him, her voice dripping with disbelief. Is he talking about your sister? The gardener? Mike mumbled something, looking like he wished the floor would swallow him up. The mayor's praise continued, each word like a vindication I never knew I needed. Jenny's work has revitalized our city. She's a true talent. Amidst the clapping, I felt a surge of confidence I hadn't experienced in years. The girl who used to hide behind Grandma Rose's apron was gone. In her place stood someone who had earned her place in the world. Then, seizing the moment, I decided to speak up. Thank you, Mayor, for your kind words. It's an honor to contribute to our city's beauty. I paused, my gaze sweeping over the crowd, settling on my family. It's funny, isn't it, how life turns out? Mike, you and your bride are perfect for each other. Your shared talent for rudeness to others is quite remarkable. The room went silent, the air thick with tension. My parents, my brother, and his fiancée blushed deep red, their shame as visible as if I'd slapped them. Mom's voice cut through the silence, sharp as a knife. Jenny, what are you saying? This is your brother's wedding. I met her gaze, unflinching. Just speaking the truth, Mom. Something our family seems to struggle with. Mike stood up, his face red with anger. You can't come here and talk to us like that. I held my ground, my voice steady. I've earned my right to speak, Mike. Maybe it's time you all listened. The confrontation ended with Mike sitting down, defeated. The room slowly buzzed back to life, but I could feel the shift. I was no longer just the gardener or the outcast. I was Jenny, a recognized landscape designer, someone who had grown past her family's narrow expectations. As I sat back down, the weight of years of suppressed anger and hurt lifted from my shoulders. I had spoken my piece, stood up for myself in a way I never had before. After Mike's wedding, word spread about my success. People were buzzing about the awards I'd won, the projects I'd completed. It felt like stepping into sunlight after years in the shadows. And then, predictably, my family came calling. One afternoon, while I was sketching out a new garden design, my phone rang. It was Mom, her voice suddenly sweet as honey. Jenny, darling, we've been hearing so much about your work. Your father and I are so proud of you. I raised an eyebrow, even though she couldn't see it. Really? That's a change of tune. There was a pause. Well, we were thinking maybe you could come over. We'd love to see you, catch up on things. I could almost hear the gears turning in her head. Catch up, or catch onto my bank account? Mom's voice faltered. Jenny, that's not fair. We're family. The word a family hit a nerve. Family? Like when you all but disowned me for following my dreams. Seems like family only matters when there's money in the picture. Before she could respond, I ended the call. I wasn't about to let them back into my life just because they smelled success. A few days later, there was a knock at my door. Mike was standing there, hands in his pockets, looking everywhere but at me. Hey, Jenny. Can we talk? I crossed my arms. This should be good. What do you want, Mike? He shifted uncomfortably. Look, I know we haven't been great, but you're doing well and I was wondering if you could, help me out a bit. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Help you out? After years of calling me the gardener and laughing at my ambitions? Mike's face reddened. I didn't mean it like that. It's just that things are tough and I cut him off. Save it, Mike. I'm not your ATM. You and the family made it clear how you felt about me. You can't just waltz back into my life when it's convenient. He opened his mouth to argue, but I stopped him. No, Mike. You made your bed. Now lie in it. After he left, I sat in my garden, surrounded by the beauty I had created. My phone rang a few more times over the next week, more attempts at reconciliation from my family. But I didn't answer. I was done with their fair weather affection. I had built a life for myself, one that didn't need their validation or their greed. I was thriving in my own right, and that was all that mattered. They had chosen their path, and I had chosen mine. As I looked around at the plants and flowers that were testament to my hard work and passion, I realized I had everything I needed right here. I was happy, successful, and free from the toxic ties that had once bound me. This wasn't just the end of a chapter, it was the beginning of a whole new book. My book. And I was going to make sure it was a bestseller, written on my own terms, in my own style. The new growth in my life was just starting. And I was ready for whatever came next.